Hi, everybody. Welcome to season 2 of Have You Ever Heard? We've got some exciting guests this season from the worlds of gospel, contemporary Christian, and women's music. We're kicking off today with some Nashville legends who've worked in both gospel and country music, the 21st century singers. We've got one of the founding members, Charles Miller. We've got Frankie Henry, Everett Drake, and Robin Grace. Together talking about making their 1979 album Sunday Night Fever. I think this is the first time they've ever talked about it, but they're together for the first time in 35 years. So I hope you enjoy the conversation, and more than that, I hope you enjoy the music. I am curious about, and maybe this is a more general question that's not related necessarily to when you joined the group, but I do want to hear a lot about Johnny. And how you all first, maybe individually, first heard Johnny.
Wow. Well, okay.
Yeah, whosoever wants to go.
I was 16 years old in Newark, New Jersey, and my church choir, which was led by Derek Lee, it was the WLE Choral Ensemble, was on program with 21st Century at Newark Symphony Hall in 1976. Wow. And so, along with some other people, 21st Century at that time was Charles and Lula and Johnny. And I was just mesmerized by yes, that's the group. Yeah. And I was done in. I had never seen such beauty from Lula. Lula was a China doll, a black China doll. Charles was just immensely poised. And Johnny was one of the most phenomenal singers I had ever heard in my life. I had never heard a man sing so high. The highest I'd ever heard was like Johnny, was like Eddie Kendricks and people like that, you know, from soul music that we would hear on the radio. And so to witness a man sing in the timbre that he did, when we're talking high E flats, which is on wax, and that's unheard of, you know, like Mariah Carey high, you know, it was mind-blowing. I had no idea that within the year I would be transplanted to Nashville and then end up singing in the very same group with the guy that had just amazed me. And not just singing in the group, but singing the part with him. So I sang soprano with Johnny in 21st Century until he decided to switch to tenor.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. What about you, Frankie?
The first time I heard Johnny, I was playing for a church, and I think he was at Mount Pisgah, and he was a little boy, but he could play. And he was playing, and then he started singing, and I'm so much older than he. I said, where did this child get this voice from? He was so talented back then. And I would see him at different programs, you know, but I didn't meet him really to really grasp all of the inner talent that he had for music until I joined the Johnson Ensemble, and then we interacted then. And later, when I was a member of the fabulous 21st Century Singers, his talent exceed playing or singing. I mean, he could produce, and he could get in that control room, and he had an ear for that. He was a natural. And I would just be at awe looking at him, because he would say, Shauna, no. Shauna said, well, come on in here. And John would get in there, and all of those keyboards, he just hit, no, what? He was fabulous. He was a joy to be around, and everybody loved him. You know, some people that are that fortunate to be talented like that, he had a sophisticated air, but it was always smooth and Christ-like. See, there's a difference. Some people, if you're not for real, you can't be like that.
Yes.
And he was a for real person. Just a joy to be around. And if you close your eyes on some of those songs, like Robin, you would think it was a soprano singing. And some of my friends, when they said, "What girl is it?" I said, "That's not a girl leading that song." Right. "Oh, yes, it is." I said, "No. That's Johnny Whittaker, the fabulous Johnny Whittaker."
Yeah. That's right. Now, Charles, you are the original member of the group.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the first time you heard Johnny and then how you came to join the group?
Well, I used to sing with a guy named Reverend Henry Everett.
Okay.
And we would go to Johnny's church for annual program, and he would be there. And one Sunday he came and sang, and I was so mesmerized because I had never seen him before, you know. And I lived in North Nashville, and he was way up in Antioch. And
okay.
That's how, we met, and we, talked and everything. And so he had told me he's planning to have a group, and would I be interested in singing? And I said, sure, And so he got in touch with me, and that's how I become one of the original 21st Century. Of course, it was a choir before it came down, and it was a joy, working with him. It was a joy.
Well, and and Everett, I'm going to ask you in a second about your first time hearing Johnny. I want to set a little bit of context because before you all were getting ready to start Sunday Night Fever, the group had just come off of a Grammy-nominated album. And so that really is significant, particularly for Nashville gospel. And if the papers I read are correct, y'all were the first Black group from Nashville to receive a Grammy nomination.
Right.
And so this is really significant. And so I'm sure there was a lot of expectation around Sunday Night Fever and what that record would probably do coming off of a Grammy-nominated project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Everett the same question, and then we'll start jumping into everybody else's stories about how they came to the group, and we'll jump into Sunday Night Fever. But Everett, tell me about the first time you heard Johnny.
I think the first time I heard Johnny was back maybe 1965 or 66, following the BCNM Mass Choir. During those times, there were Sunday afternoon programs, a 3 o'clock program, and then you had a 7 o'clock program, a 7:30 in the evening. And they more times than not had two, one in the afternoon and one at night. And that just became a part of our Sundays. And when I say our, I'm talking about the Nashville gospel community. We would just go from church to church on Sundays and follow them. They had a great big choir, maybe 100 people or so. And Johnny was one of the directors of BCNM Choir. But even more than that, he was a phenomenal singer. And his tenor voice was awesome. But when he went into his falsetto thing, it was mesmerizing. It was another ball game.
Yes.
So you had two things happening. And that's just kind of, how I first encountered Johnny. And as others have said, around in the city, there were different groups, and we were all traveling around singing on one another's anniversaries and all. I was with the Johnson Ensemble, Frankie and I both. And there were many times our groups would be on the same programs because we recorded for the same record label, Nashville Records.
Yes.
So we have a long history of being around one another and having an opportunity to experience Johnny and all his wonderful, wonderful talent and marvelous gift. We did many recording sessions together. They had done many before I had an opportunity to work with them, because there were many country music stars that recorded at Woodland Sound Studios where Nashville was housed. And Charles and Lula and Johnny got a whole lot of work.
A lot of work.
Being there in that particular studio, like the house vocals for the record company.
Right.
And we were just afforded some opportunities later on, you know, as time grew on and we established relationships and all. And I'm just so happy to have Charles here because he is one of the original
That's right.
21st century singers, and especially of the celebrated three that we all became to love, you know, Johnny, Lula, and Charles.
That's right.
You know, so it's very special to be on here tonight with him.
Yes.
Well, Charles, I want to ask about those years because you all became really known not only for your own work, you know, as your individual 21st century records, but you all were singing and featured on Isaac Douglas, Clara Ward singers, Reverend Wilmington, Morgan Babb. You know, y'all were featured on all of these great artist records. So that then expands your reputation. I mean, literally around the world. You were going to Switzerland and performing at the Montreux Jazz Festival. Can you talk a little bit about those years and the volume of work you all were doing?
Well, we had done so much work. The biggest thing that, you know, I can say, we were like sisters and brothers because we stayed in the studio. You know, you would think that we lived there.
Yeah.
And we had a chance of meeting so many artists that they wanted us to do their background for them. My favorite background singing was with Reverend Morgan Babb, Pray For Me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still playing today.
Yes, it is.
It's still playing today. And a lot of people, when I hear it, I ask several people, do you know who that's singing in the background? And they said, no, but they show singing it. And I laugh and walk away. And, you know, it just, you know, it's just a joy knowing that I have sang with some big people and not knowing that it was going to happen to me, you know?
Right.
And God just have, you know, blessed me, you know, and singing with Isaac Douglas was a joy. I mean, it really with him, it really was a joy. And singing with Harrison, it's, you know, I have nothing bad to say but goodness of all the artists that we background and sang for. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, having said all of that, when you all, and I guess my real question is getting ready for Sunday Night Fever, and let's show it so people can see it. Just a great, I mean, this is such a unique cover as well for gospel music. You didn't see covers that look like this unless they came through Nashville Records. But this was, how early before recording this, Frankie and Robin and Everett, did you all get added to the group?
Well,
it's all right. Think about it. It's all right.
Well, I think.
Well, Frankie was in the group, but the thing about it is, did you notice the car?
Yes.
Okay, the car concept come from Frankie's Cadillac.
Wow.
She had a Cadillac that had the top open, and we all fitted up in that little corner top of the Cadillac. And I don't know how in the world they drummed that up with the with the with the car that we're in.
Wow.
And it was Frankie, me, and Lula, and Everett, and all 5 of us fitted up in this little hole in this Cadillac. And then they come up with this concept, which was real nice.
Yes.
Real nice.
Very different. Yeah.
I mean, well, 21st century, period. I think one of the things that's so unique about the group is when I say sophistication, you can tell y'all were not just singing in churches. You know,
Right.
y'all were singing
That's
in
right.
concert halls. I mean, y'all
Yeah.
looked like a professional group, not just singing at programs. And there's nothing wrong with just singing at programs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I remember vividly when we sang at Johnny Cash's daughter Rosalind's wedding reception.
Right.
I married in LA, and he flew a whole wedding reception to his house.
Wow.
And Lula led You Light Up My Life.
Wow.
And the housekeeper showed Lula and I around his house, and we went in June Carter's bathroom and saw this big straw chair, the big round straw. And Lula and I was kind of using, oh, that belongs on the front porch. The maid raised up the seat. It was her commode.
I didn't go in the bathroom, but I did go in
Yeah.
the bathroom.
It
And
was
I
her
promise
commode.
you, they had the biggest chandelier hanging over the master bed that I had ever seen in my life. But it was so large that it was low. It looked like somebody had tried to clean it and didn't have time to put it back up. And June came in the bedroom and she said, come here, let me show you something. And I was just in awe. And all I heard was wah, wah, wah.
Look, funnier than that.
Of
Lula
what she
had a
said.
twin
I
sister.
mean, I just wanted to say, June, you know, your chandelier is hanging a little low.
Lula had a twin sister. They were fraternal twins.
Yeah.
And she was a beautician. And this is when they were having these acrylic nails. And before we got there, Mary put me on some acrylic nails that look like eagle claws. So when June Carter Cash and Johnny started singing, they had Charles and Lula and we were all in the background. So June Carter Cash had this shawl with the long fringe, and she swung around, and those fringes got hooked up in those claw nails that I had. And she was running out in front, and we were supposed to have been staying in the background. And I'm running behind her trying to and
that was a hilarious night.
I'm doing this to the audience.
Yes, it was.
It was a hilarious
It
night.
was
the whole
hilarious.
night.
And
Yeah.
I mean, they thought I was supposed to have done it because we had showmanship galore. And I'm just,
We were a very, very strange group. But we
Yes.
didn't let nothing get us down because we kept things going. We laughed about everything. We stayed in our own circle, you know,
Sure
and
did.
we were like a family, you know.
it's like a family.
When one didn't have it, the other had it, you know. And we loved on each other. That's what we actually did. We loved on each other, you know. Frankie
But
would
it was a
clown.
very polished atmosphere.
Yes. Yeah.
Johnny Williams commanded and demanded excellence.
Yes, he
Right.
did.
He sure
And
did.
we rehearsed and prepared, and it was a rehearsed presentation. It was always prepared.
Yes.
So when you rehearse and prepare yourself, then you are free to be comfortable in what you're doing. So it came off a very polished group, in look, sound, everything about the group was polished and very comfortable. You know, kind of like what we always admired about the Hawkins family.
Yeah.
They were always very polished, and the sound was immaculate and all that, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just comfortable because they were so good at what they were. They made you feel comfortable in how good they were.
Right.
And that was one of the things that was very evident about the 21st century singers.
And
Yes,
the
and we
beauty of that
appeared.
is that it translated to the recordings. Even as you listen to Charles's vocals on Sunday Night Fever,
Yeah.
I got chills just remembering
Yes.
how good he was. That was a part of what mesmerized, there's that word again, mesmerized me so much when I saw him the first time back in 1976. I had never seen someone so polished, as though he were, and I don't mean this in a bad way, as though he were an actor singing his lines. It was that rehearsed. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And he still does the same thing today. I mean, it's just like, you know, if you hear him tonight, if anybody call him, it's just perfect. Everett could tell you. I mean, he sounds the same way he did back in the 70s. He's
And a ball of energy.
Yeah, a ball of energy.
Yeah.
We talked about you like you're not here, sir.
And look, the group was so outstanding. We crossed that traditional gospel.
Yes.
And because we didn't even sound like the traditional, not even the Johnson. We didn't sound like them. It was something futuristic.
Yes.
Future, that even when the prisoners in Lebanon, I think that penitentiary was burned down, and we appeared at the Municipal Auditorium. They had Waylon Jennings. It was a concert to raise money. They had Waylon Jennings represented country and western. The 21st century represented gospel.
Wow.
B.B. King represented rock, blues.
Wow.
And we packed that place out. 21st century.
Wow.
B.B. King, Waylon Jennings.
Wow.
And at the exit end,
Wow.
Porter Wagner in the 21st century at the exit end.
Wow. Wow.
I forgot about that.
Robin, did you ever buy those shoes? Did you? We had money to buy shoes, and Mary and I talked about that today. Lula's sister said, "Remember you and Lula? You went and y'all got the shoes." And asked Robin, "Where are your shoes, Robin?" She said, "Honey, I went to get my hair done with that money." I get my shoes later. When we got on stage, Robin had those shoes, but she had to get that hair done first.
Yeah, that's the woman's crown and glory. You get your hair done and be as gorgeous as you can. That's scripture, so I didn't make that up.
Well, let me ask this while we're talking about Lula. Charles, do you know how Lula came to the group?
Well, Lula came to the group as part of the choir that Johnny starred.
Okay.
And of course, she was one of the, I should say, the first one that he asked her to come and sing, you know, with the choir that he had formed. And then it came me, and then the rest of the people that he sing with, singing out and stuff, and had them to come. I think it was about 20 of us as a choir, you know, and it was joy there, you know, even with a choir, you know, sometimes you have a lot of mess with a bunch of folks, but we were so silly and laughter and family wise, you know, we didn't care, you know, and we still had that same mentality of polish it,
Yes.
work hard.
Yeah.
And it was joy work. It was hard work. I mean, any time that you could stay up 11 and 12 to get it right, because it can't. Shannon wasn't gonna have it no other way. Right. And Johnny Whittaker wasn't either.
That's right.
We had to do what we had to do, you know. Right. And look like when we did our concerts, looked like something just come up with the whole group, and we just locked, and people really enjoyed us. And I miss those days. I really do. Got a little older, but I miss those days.
Well, we all have.
Well, as a younger person here, I mean, I have to say nothing sounds like this today. Nobody sounds like this. The sound is still so unique. There's no replicating this. You can't duplicate this. Nobody else could come around and put another group together that would ever match the sound, because it really was about the magic of the five of you together.
Yeah.
Or the three of you when it was just the three of you,
Right.
That's the real passion behind it, is that there was a core, and then everything else is just adding to the greatness. Everything else is, you all had great songs. And so I want to talk about what we're talking about, songs. One of the key elements in that was Charles Barnett as well, who was, an arranger and songwriter. How did Charles come to be a part of 21st Century?
I'm not for sure, because it's been such a while. Because he used to sing with James Cleveland.
Right.
And I think he, some kind of way that they, hooked up.
Okay.
And
well, I'm going to say,
we needed.
Say it, Everett.
No, I'm just going to say, I'm sure Shannon encountered his genius somewhere along the way, traveling and all. Because more times than not, Shannon would bring in Harrison Johnson and Kenny Looper and those California musicians to play for 21st Century Singers.
Right.
And I'm sure some of those times he encountered Charles Barnett along the way and brought him in, to do some of the same thing, because that was a part of the creation of their sound. It was like these Southern singers with these California musicians, and that took them somewhere else that none of us went, because they had that influence. So I'm going to say Shannon had come in contact with Charles at some point. Shannon was always seeking out great musicians, always.
Yes.
Well, I think that's one of the great things about Nashboro Creed as well, is exactly what you said, Everett, that convergence of the coasts meeting the South. Because once you put all of those elements together, I mean, that Nashboro had really innovative East Coast choirs, Benny Cummings, New York Community Choir, as well as LA Community Singers. As they're bringing in all of that, and then 21st Century Singers on top of that. Clara Ward with that combination of musicians. I mean, there's no sound like the Nashboro sound for that reason. Well, let's dig into this record now. So I'd like to talk about your memories of how these songs started coming into the group. Because do you remember how did you all prepare for an album? When you had to record, how did that start coming together for you all?
I didn't have any.
Well,
my entry to the group, it was so crazy. I started with the group as they were recording Sunday Night Fever.
Okay.
So that's part of the reason why my picture isn't on the project, because they had already established most of that. But I was on campus. I met Johnny through Derek on campus, and Same year, Johnny was on campus. He had gone to meet Hilbert, his brother, who played baseball at Fisk, and we just happened to run into each other, and he said, "Hey, come go with me." I said, "Okay." And so I ended up going with Johnny to the studio, which I found out later was Woodland, and they had already pretty much wrapped up the project, but he said, "Sing." So that's how I kind of ended up in the group on the record. It was already in process, pretty much wrapped up by the time I got there. So that was my input and recollection from the group.
Charles, what were you going to say?
Repeat that again.
Well, you were getting ready to, you were going to say, you and Robin started talking at the same time. So jump on. No, it's all right, Robin.
I was saying that that's what Robin said was true, because we had worked so hard and we did rehearsals. Now we really rehearsal. We just didn't come in rehearsal and play around and that's it. What we had to do in the studio, we did it at rehearsal. And when we had to sing on stage, we did exactly at rehearsal. So, you know, that I think that's how we were blessed to have the group that we had, you know. Mm-hmm. I was so, well, I'm gonna say this because it's true. We were so glad, Johnny, Lula, and I were so glad to get a fourth singer, because we were singing our poor little hearts to death. Then after that, then we needed another singer. Mm-hmm. Because we was doing so much work and doing so much traveling and doing a lot of recording. And, you know, that was just a burden to lift up off of us, you know, as group members. You know, you got 3 people singing and you got to switch up sounds and stuff. And thank God for Everett and the girls and Frankie and Robin for being in the group. I'm getting old, see, I can't even think anymore. So that's, you know, that's it, you know. And everybody, you'd be surprised of the people that wanted to join the 21st Century Singers, even with the 3. And the answer would be a no. You know, you had to have a certain personality for one thing. And you have to have a thing about yourself of being friendly, but we just didn't allow anybody in the group. No. That's a no, you know.
I remember when Shannon and Johnny confronted me about being a part of the 21st Century Singers. This is when I told you that DeWitt had moved, I think, to Memphis, and we didn't have the Johnson Ensemble anymore. So they asked me to be a part of the 21st Century Singer, and I was wondering why. And they said, because you are a background singer, and we have 3 lead singers, but when one is our lead, and we just got that 2-part harmony when we go, and we need someone that can sing the soprano part, alto part, and tenor part. So when Charles was out, I would sing his part in the background. I did the same thing in Johnson Ensemble. And I think that's because of my maturity, that I had been in music for such a long time before these children knew what gospel was. I belonged to a group called the Fidelities, and we brought the Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers and the Caravans at K Gardner's, and they had to stay in Brown Hotel right across from K Gardner's. These were children there, and I was only about 15 at that time. Okay. So see, my maturity and that's why I can distinguish between that traditional, and when I joined the 21st Century, they were so different. That sound, I never heard it before, and I have not heard it since.
And mature is
So unique.
yes, absolutely. I have to, if I could, just a sidebar.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frankie, so much for being exactly who you were. And that same thanks goes to Lula, because as a young girl, and again, I was 17 when I came, your example of what a gospel singer should be was it was the benchmark for what I needed to become. And you guys all set such great examples for me, both you and Lula. And then Johnny musically set the bar as well, because I was hired, I joined to sing with him. So I had to match his sound in order to fill that gap. Not that I sounded exactly like him, but I was able to fill in his voice in such a way that it was satisfactory to carry that part. And so you guys, you set all kinds of examples. Thank you, Everett, for being my second big brother, Derek being the first. And taking such good care of me when after I transitioned to New Life and to become the New Life singer. But everything that I learned from you guys, Charles, the poise that you had on stage, phenomenal. That really helped to seed into becoming an artist. And even as we both transitioned to New Life, thank you for, I can't thank you enough for being exactly who you are, all of you. Everett, thank you. Frankie, thank you. Sorry.
You know,
Sorry.
what I really want people to know is that recording of Sunday Night Fever, a lot of it was done by those three singers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We may have done one or two songs, a back end of a song. We did do, of course, I Want to Be Ready, the title cut, the Sunday Night Fever song, but most of it was already done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Yeah.
Most of it was already done.
Yes.
We may have done two songs. We might have sung the tail end of The Sun Will Shine After a While. That seemed very familiar to me, like we might have sang that. But other than that, it was already done. It was already a record.
Wow.
Yes. Johnny said, "Come go with me, sing this." But
That was him.
That was what he did. I was before with Derek, I'd have been like, "Who are you?" But that's what he said, and it helped to transition. It brought me to Mount Pisgah and gave me a chance to establish family there. And when I say family, I mean family, because see, I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and we have church in Newark, but church is different in the South. Church is family here. And I always say I learned how to live in New Jersey, but I learned how to love in Tennessee.
Wow.
And so thank you guys, for being the examples that you were of love, of Christian love, while we were making good music.
So, okay, Charles, since you were really the one when the album was conceived, whose idea was it to remake Staying Alive as a gospel song?
I want to say that Shannon Williams.
Okay.
I think what really got him, it was the rhythm that he liked, And then I think he came to the conclusion, I think we're going to do that. I said, we're going to do that? The original song, And so when they finally got it together, we went into the studio and they showed us Johnny already knew how it went, but me and Lula had to get in there and do some work. And I want to say Shannon, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's so great about that is that it did not register with me because you all so reinvented that song.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I looked at the label on the album, I said, well, doggone it, that was Staying Alive.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
but it was so unique. It didn't sound like, you hear these gospel songs and they take a secular song and they put some words on it and you go, that was so corny. I did not need that.
When they gonna stop doing that?
When they gonna stop doing that? And y'all made it so interesting and fresh. I normally hate when people do that. And it's so original. It sounds like a completely different song, and it's only when you look down you get the connection, and that's what it should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what it. Now, Charles, tell me a little bit about. Do you have a favorite on this project?
Well, I did so many.
You did.
I really trying to think. There's one song on there where I'm preaching almost,
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it the other day and I got tickled. I said, I could have been a Baptist preacher, and I can't think of the title.
Wait, it's If You Wait.
Yes. That's what it was.
You could have preached on it.
Yeah, I said I could have been a Baptist preacher. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
My grandmother heard it, and she said, "Who is that doing all that preaching on that?" I never did tell her. She said, "Please tell me that ain't you." I said, "Well, it is, Reverend Miller."
Yes, I remember your famous line: "If you dig one ditch, you better dig two."
Well, that's a true line too.
Yes, sir, because the ditch you dig for me may be for you.
Come on, Dorothy Love.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm just going to say. That. Yeah.
Now, let me ask this too, because, how people make records today may not be that similar to how you all made this record. Did you all record, Charles, the musician tracks with your vocals all live, or did they track everybody separately?
They did it separately.
They did? Okay.
They did the music, and then we went in behind that and did it. Yeah.
Okay.
Did the song.
Now, how long, because I've talked to some artists that used to record for Savoy, and they'd say, we go in there, we'd make a record in 3 hours and go on home. Everett's laughing down there. How long, what was the length of time making this kind of record? Was this a week or 2 weeks or a month?
Well, it depends on what Shannon want to add to the songs.
Mm-hmm.
He may want to add a tambourine or something, and it depends. I said it took us about 2 weeks and a half.
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to stop and redo it over again, But
okay.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
But now let me just say this. What you were saying was still very much in effect during that time, because if I'm not mistaken, when we cut The Harvest is Plentiful with Isaac Douglas, we did that record one Saturday afternoon, the whole record, And so a lot of those things were done, in a day, because time is money,
Right.
There wasn't a time to come and rehearse. You came prepared. You may get you a couple of times to, cut the song. And see, back then we were cutting a lot of it live then,
Right.
It all went down at the same time.
Right.
Right. As I said, the 21st century was a cut above the rest. They had the privilege
That's right.
of being in the studio all the time. So they could cut pieces and songs and parts and all, and then it become a project. But everybody else, when they came in, like if Dorothy Love came to record, Mother came in with her singers, and she anointed that place, and she went to singing, and then she went on back to Birmingham, Alabama.
Got it.
Show you're right. Yeah.
You're right. That's right.
For instance, just to follow up behind that, on that next project when we did Triumphant,
Yes.
and I sang Who Wouldn't Serve a God Like This, that was one take. They were adjusting levels and they just said, keep singing. And then they went back and got the front part of it during the time they had been adjusting, and that was the whole lead on that song. There was no practice, no go back, no fix, no nothing. That was it and done.
Well, and I want to say, like, Triumphant is a whole nother show, a whole other conversation. That is
Right.
a classic album produced by Derek Lee.
Yes.
Brilliant. That record is one of the most amazing records I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I have re-recorded one of the songs that's going to be on my next project.
Yes.
That's right. So you can, let me say this too. So there's a compilation project that you can stream, you can download on all the music stores, Apple Music, Spotify, called Johnny Whittaker and the 21st Century Singers. It's called Triumphant. The entire Triumphant album is on it. And there's a couple songs from Sunday Night Fever, a couple of songs from some of the other projects on that. I want to encourage people watching to go and listen. You can hear this music we're talking about. You may not be able to hear this whole record. You can go buy this used. And I encourage people to do that. It's on YouTube. You can find it. Listen to this amazing, ahead of its time music. It's going to reach you exactly where you are today, and you're going to wish you sounded like this. So, okay, I got off track and I started preaching. But
All right.
when you all would release a project like this, so you release Sunday Night Fever, you know, now they put people out on the road and they go out and they hit a bunch of circuits trying to push the record. Did you all do that for this project? Did you all hit the road when it came out?
Sometimes we did. It depends on what Shannon's schedule was, you know. But I want to say we did. Yeah. Okay. We didn't, you know, not immediately. Maybe about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then we're out there doing it, you know, because he had other artists that he was working on. So that's how we was able to do what we did, you know, but we did it.
How did people, and I'm curious because, you know, I've one of my big groups that I've done a lot of work on and written about and interviewed is the New York Community Choir. Similar in a sense to you all in that they were so contemporary, so not just bound to the church world. And they really went through some horrible things because they were so ahead of their time. Got a lot of criticism. And I would assume, I'm guessing, that this particular record might elicit that same kind of response from people. It was so contemporary, so not the norm within gospel music. How did people respond to this record?
Well, I don't know how they actually responded to this record, but standing on the outside looking in, the record before that, The Storm is Passing Over, was so different, and it charted and was played on secular radio. So I'm thinking that any controversy would have already come and gone with that record, so that this was more accepted. They accepted this because The Storm is Passing Over was played on secular radio, just like Oh Happy Day got secular radio. The Storm is Passing Over got that.
When Johnny and Lula and I and Shannon went to the Grammys, it was a reaction. And we sit there and, you know, prayed and crossed our fingers and crossed our legs and wiggle and wobble, you know, and, you know, how we gonna do this? I said, I'll tell you one thing, they better not call the 21st century because they're gonna see us really shout. Yeah. I was ready to shout.
I know that's right.
That journey. I thank God for that journey. So we was up against some heavyweights that year.
Yes.
Absolutely. But I said that to say that I'm thinking any controversy that might have come against this Sunday Night Fever record was kind of already blown over.
Got it.
That, you know, after the secular radio play and everything of The Storm is Passing Over, that they were ready to accept new music.
Okay.
A new move.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, Sunday Night Fever made the Village Voice, one of the top underground papers in New York. Village Voice was one of their critics' picks for the best album of 1978. the
Wow.
only gospel record on the list.
The only gospel record on the list.
On the
Only gospel
list.
record on the
Oh,
list.
wow.
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 Yeah. 1978. And, you know, that same year, I read an interview in the Tennessean that Johnny did. And he said that he had hoped that the Grammy nomination would open doors for more performance venues outside of the church.
The thing and the blessing was that Shannon was an awesome manager.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And, you know, nowadays we don't have a lot of management in, you know, gospel, hands-on. Now you may have a booking manager and all, but I mean, artist development management, you know, that went on there, which he was able to create atmospheres for them to learn and to have experiences, to see the kinds of acts and put them on shows and things where they had to be a part of the kinds of things that he wanted them to grow to.
Got it.
He was an excellent manager.
And there was preparation as well. I remember
Absolutely.
to the degree that we even for a period rehearsed at 8:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And you were expected to have the type of excellence that you would have if you were to rehearse at 6:00 in the afternoon. So there was preparation and the approach that we needed to be flexible and also professional and ready for every circumstance at all times.
Wow. Wow. Now, how long did this incarnation of the group stay together? Who all stayed through to Triumphant?
Robin.
Charles.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. Let me tell y'all why I didn't know that. Because Triumphant, if you try to buy Triumphant, a physical copy of it, that thing is selling for $250 now.
Wow.
So I don't have my hands.
Would you like to purchase one?
No.
Go on, Rob.
Would you like to buy a copy?
Can I get a discount?
Make sure this counts.
That album is a collector's item today. I mean, it has some DJs, I guess, overseas picked up Triumphant and started playing it. And so it picked up a whole cult, you know what I'm saying when I say that, cult following.
Right.
And you can get your hands on that record to save your life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was curious about who all stayed.
Well, I was there.
Robin was there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, when did everybody make a shift out of the group after this record?
I have no idea about a time frame or anything.
Me either, Everett.
Yeah, it kind of kept evolving.
Yeah.
And I guess when Johnny got ready to do the next record, he was moving on to another sound and trying something else, you know, and yeah.
Got
And
it.
then he moved to New Life thereafter. So he was a New Life singer along with Charles.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I don't know, I think that there was a transition to, as Everett was saying, have that sound evolve, because there were a number of really phenomenal singers that were in the city that became a part of 21st Century, though we didn't record with that set of people. I was always there with Johnny until he transitioned to New Life. And then because they were looking for somebody to sing with him in New Life, then I was brought into New Life to match his sound again, the same way we did in 21st Century. But as far as 21st Century, as far as 21st Century is concerned, we sort of continued to transition until Johnny made the transition.
Wow. Wow. The interconnection throughout the Nashville groups is so fascinating. And how that sound, then you all were bringing that to New Life. I find it so fascinating how it just, evolution is the right word. It's the right word. Well, I want to, let me make sure I got everything in. I think is there anything anybody wants to tell that they haven't told? Anything anybody wants to say?
Johnny was a phenomenal envoy for gospel music. He opened the door for so many singers, and he made platforms available so that these people could be exposed, so that they could exercise and experiment with their talents. And I think that Nashville and the Nashville music scene is better for it, and they have been impacted in a way that they'll never know because they didn't have a chance to meet this phenomenal talent that we know as Johnny Whittaker.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, he was quite instrumental in me being who I am today. I often talk in interviews about going to the studio with friends who were working. I wasn't working. I went to see how to, conduct myself and what to do and what not to do if given an opportunity. And Johnny would take you with him wherever he was going, that you could learn whatever you could learn with him while he was doing whatever he was doing.
Right.
And I mean, he was very sought after during that time by many of the country music stars. And we got opportunities to sing on a lot of country music stars' records because of Johnny.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And, I'd often talk about that, going to the studio with him and, how he encouraged me. I often wonder, what he would think about what I'm doing now, knowing that he was instrumental in getting me going and getting me started into doing that. He introduced me to Donna Fargo.
Wow.
Who I went on to tour with, along with him and Charles, for many years.
Yeah.
Many years. And I talked to her the day before yesterday, as a matter of fact, her birthday. And we're still friends today. But those were the formative years for me to get into that arena and working in country music, and which has been a blessing in my life. I went on from that to work with Lyle Lovin and his large band and do many other things, but Johnny Whittaker was the one that got me going and would take me places and allow me to study under him and what he was doing. I didn't know I could sing falsetto vocals until Johnny walked away from a gig with Donna Fargo one time, and I had to step into his shoes and do what he did in the show.
Wow.
Yes.
And that is kind of how that happened. But it enabled me to learn more about myself as a singer and what I had actually learned, but had never had an opportunity to put it to use because Johnny was always there.
Right.
Yeah. And he was phenomenal.
Yes, he was.
But you don't realize what you were learning from him. You're just taking it in and all, but you don't even realize what you acquired or learned. And it was all after the fact, after he had stopped singing with Donna, that I had to do those things and learned what I really had absorbed from him, but never even tried it. So I'm so grateful for those times, and I owe it all to Johnny.
Yes.
And those experiences that he gave me.
Absolutely.
I wasn't making any money. I went to the studio to learn. They were making money. But the blessing was that I went one time with them, and the producer wanted a bigger sound than the three singers that said, hey, can he sing? Bring him in here and let him sing too.
Wow.
Well, that was my opportunity.
That's right.
Had I not been there, I'd have missed my opportunity. And I'm just grateful, and one thing led to another, referrals and all. And it's just a blessing to always go back and thank people for, what they've done in your life and how they've been a blessing.
I want to add, and I'm so sorry, because to have an opportunity to say something about a gentleman like Johnny, he had a spirit of excellence. Yeah. And that was that was said. And again, like I was saying earlier, he was an envoy and he opened the door, and that spirit of sharing, because of how insecure we can be in this business, wherein we don't want to make our own experiences available to other people. So we are very closed and we're very secretive, and we don't share. And he did that for so many people. And I grabbed a hold to that spirit. So I have that now today, where whenever I'm doing, I feel like an usher trying to open the door and allow and push people in so that they can take advantage of the opportunities that are available. And that was because of him and the environment that he created and the people that he surrounded himself with. And so as a result, we became a reflection of that spirit of generosity and excellence. And I cannot say enough about him and the just the genuine spirit that he was, the talent that he was, the mess that he was. He was a beautiful mess, and you guys know what I'm talking about. He was as exciting and charismatic as could possibly be. I have never met a person like him, and I don't know if I'll ever meet another person like him, but I'm thankful for having had him in our lives. And thank you for allowing us an opportunity to come and just say a little bit about that thing that he started that we call the 21st Century Singers.
Well,
Can I say something?
You absolutely can, Charles.
The strangest thing about the 21st century, I don't know how it just added up like this. We were a bunch of crazy folks, trust me. From Frankie, Everett, me, Lula, Johnny, and Robin. You wanted to meet a bunch of crazy folks, be around us.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you would see we had so much joy. Joy, we'd laugh and giggle about everything. And, we were crazy. We would go out to concerts and we would, to ourselves, let me put it like that. We was in our own world, and I love that. I want to say that Johnny was my friend, my brother.
Yeah.
He and I lived together at one time, and he was just Johnny. You couldn't meet no better person than Johnny, know. And he would do anything he can for you. The same way about Shannon, And the group had a heart like that, And we, and like I say, we miss it. They don't have this like we used to have. This is a new season. And these young people don't know. If you don't work hard for what you get, you'll lose it. You'll lose it. Right. You'll lose it. And I'm so proud of Everett because he has kept it going for himself. And God has blessed that young man. Yes, and God is going to continue to bless him, and Robin too. And Miss Frankie, she's so grand now. She done retired from teaching. So I guess she's ready to start back singing, Everett.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to change the conversation, but as you know, I'm 10 to 12 to 14 years older than and I always wanted to be a part of the group, but I had so much experience, and I would venture off because I was working on my master's and I was teaching, and I was involved in so many other activities. Plus, I was married. I've been married now for 59 years, going on 60. And I have a son, a daughter, granddaughter and a great grandson. But my thing is, when they were still off into music, I was out in civic activities.
Yes.
Because in 1960,
Please
I
say
was
something
arrested
about that.
with John Lewis.
Wow.
And I integrated the counters here.
Wow.
So they had me on the front page of the Tennessean, where the white lady put the cigarette out on my arm in McClellan's, and then threw the matches down my back. And I spent my first year in college, I spent 15 days in jail, sleeping on cold concrete with no mattresses. And so I go around and give my story about the sit-ins. Wow. You know, that John Lewis and I, we the same age, we were arrested the same day.
Wow.
And it was 87 of us, and they tried us one by one, and we didn't leave until they had tried all 8 of us, and it took over it was 30 to 29 to 28 degrees in jail, and we just ate a bean soup with a slice of light bread in it twice a day. The commode was in the middle of the floor. See, all of these things, these kids didn't get a chance. So when I'm confronted with a lot of adversities in life, it draws me a little different from where the 21st century singers, you know, because I taught, and I've been a first lady at my husband's church for 28 years. He's retired and I'm retired, you know. So I was so proud to be a part of the young folk like Charles and Everett. Everett was about 13 or 14 when I joined the group. Charles been singing. Yeah. I guess I saw him when he was about 7 or 8 or 9 years old. I said, who is that little boy singing up there? Because I've been playing for churches all my life. Wow. And just like now, he was singing back then. Wow. Robin was just, to me, Robin could be on the Atlanta Housewives kind of person.
Wow. Listen,
yes.
To me, it's an immense honor.
Yes.
Because when I was, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
You have that kind of expertise, you know, that those ladies have. But coming from an old woman, you know, and some of the things that I grew up with and I had to endure as a child and as an adult. Well, see, when I got in the group, I was far advanced. I knew from a long time before they, you know, Rosetta Thorpe. They don't know anything about Rosetta Thorpe, you know.
That's right.
So I said, now I'm here with these young, energetic, and Everett Drake. I'm like, Charles, you are phenomenal yourself.
Yes.
You're a hard worker.
Yes.
You love expertise. All of you do. And that's with me, because see, I taught tap, jazz, and ballet. And I taught that, you know, I was a physical education major. I know gymnastics, you know, I would do backwards turnovers. Probably still can do some of them. That's why
absolutely.
You mean you're 80? I say yes, and I can still twerk.
Bunch of old folk in here. Honey, I'm 60 while you talking.
But now, what I was going to say when you were talking about that.
You're the age of my son, Robin.
Frankie,
yes.
When you were talking about that, I was thinking about all that time when we were singing together. You were just as young as we were. Nobody had no clue
That's
that
right.
you were that
Nobody
much
knew it.
older because you were, first of all, physical education teacher and all. Now, just so that you know, Tim, her tennis shoes were high heel tennis shoes.
High heel
Her arch was so
sneakers.
high.
I still wear,
She couldn't wear flat shoes
I
because
wear
her arch was so high. So
7-inch
she had high heel
I
tennis
still
shoes.
wear them.
High heel sneakers.
High heel sneakers.
But
Wow.
I taught
listen,
PE in heels.
listen,
Yeah,
Still wear
taught-
heels
I mean,
now.
so she was far, far, far advanced for anybody to even think that she was older than us. She was right in there with us. She looked as young as we did,
Wow.
and she did everything that we did.
and had the
Everything.
experience and set the bar right along with the rest of them. That's
At the same
what I'm
time.
saying. But to add a little bit of backstory to that, when I was at New Jersey in high school, in my history book, they showed the counters of the stores downtown where you had sat in. I had it was such a God thing. It was so God ordained. I had no clue that I would end up singing with the lady who I saw in my history book back in New Jersey.
Wow.
That's the part that blows my mind. I had no clue. And so even in being here today and having the opportunity to again expound upon our histories, etc., we've talked about the music, but I just want to thank God for having his hand on everything that we've done up to this point, because this is just a sentence in the story. The story's not over, and there's so much more to come. There's more music, there's more presentations, there are more lives to be impacted by the thing that we do and have done called gospel music. And again, once more, thanks, Tim.
Yeah,
Tim, you're something else.
Appreciate
You're phenomenal.
we appreciate you.
Yes,
Such an honor.
Thank you, dear.
This,
Thanks.
this is a gift, and I'm a little touched right now. This is really
Well, you're
beautiful.
an amazing young man. Now,
You
you're
are.
an amazing
With
young
the
man.
killer
First of all-
glasses. Wait a minute. Let me join you.
Yeah, to have the love that you have
Yes.
for for gospel music and the heart to research and keep the music alive and from its earliest beginnings and bring out so much history and behind the scenes information and stuff about this music that we all love is absolutely amazing, and you're to be commended, and I thank God for it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Everett.
Chronicling and allowing it to become a part of history that can be grasped by these upcoming generations that don't have the privilege of knowing what their foundations were. Thank you for doing that, and I appreciate you.
Me
You all have really impacted my life deeply. I know you've impacted the lives of so many others, but I know for my life, these are the records that saved me. And so I'm just really grateful for the light you've been. You don't know me from Adam, but Everett knows me. But, I'm just meeting all of you tonight, but you've been a part of my life for a long time. And so I'm just grateful for what you did. And Frankie, that just really, I had no idea. So thank you for sharing that tonight, because people need to know the work that you all did to knock down all kinds of doors. I mean, we're sitting here tonight. We couldn't have done this 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
No.
And so this is the work that you all did. And I'm just grateful. Thanks for watching this conversation with the 21st Century Singers. I hope you'll like it. I hope you'll share it. I hope you tell your friends about it. And subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you aren't already subscribed. I'd also love it if you want to learn more about the 21st Century Singers. Stop by my Substack, godsmusicIsmylife.substack.com, And you can read a comprehensive essay about the group's history, as well as some of the other artists that we've highlighted. I've been writing for the past year there. So there's a lot of information. If you love gospel, CCM, women's music, soul music, then that's where you want to be. godsmusicIsmylife.substack.com.